why not giving the student a second chance of giving a student a special exam? In this case, we shall do that. We shall fight together as mass students. Mbarara University of Science and Technology has over 25 policies, but we have a few policies which are for students, others are for administration. We have a special needs and disability policy, whereby having a disability, they need to be looked at. I remember when I was in the government in 2017, we had introduced 250,000 for each student. It was just like an allowance. Every student who has a disability would be given that money, but I would ask my ministers who followed us whether that money is being given or not. We had the HIV AIDS policy. That one was, we started on it in 2017, which was approved in 2019. We have other policies like a retake policy. I've talked about it. We have a transport policy. Brothers and sisters, in 2018, the transport policy was introduced when I was not in the government, whereby access to the university transport means was hard. Whether for a picnic, whether we have lost for a burial, it would be very hard. That's why John Jones Bwenge, in the new government, we are looking at how can we get a guild van. And I've already started the project of having a coaster for the guild that will be used by students, just accessing it from the guild president's office. We are looking at other different policies like a gender policy and sexual harassment policy. Those policies still, we need information about those same policies. Talking about constitutionalism. In 2018, in 2016-17, I was part of the government. We have the Guild Constitution as per 23rd of May, 1992. That constitution was amended in 2008. They tried to amend it, not final, in 2012. But when we entered the office in 2016-2017, we realized the constitution was not helping when we got a tribunal after the elections. We tried to amend the constitution. The constitution is very clear according to how we amended it. In the preamble, in Article 1, we are looking at we shall declare, adopt, and bind by ourselves to the constitution. As the guild officials, the constitution is a tool that guides the guild. We are looking at Article 7, organs of the guild. We have, under the organs of the guild, we have 8 of them. But one of the good and the crucial one, that is the General Assembly. The General Assembly shall be a decision-making organ of the guild. What do we do during the General Assembly? When we have issues, like now, we are not studying for 1 week. We have officials in the office. What are they doing? Because I've heard we have an acting guild government. We don't know whether it is in the constitution, because under Article 7, still under the organs of the guild, we have the caretaker government. And the caretaker government is formed when we have, when the government or the executive has resigned or has been voted out of the office. I have evidence here. Brothers and sisters, we have the government, the guild government executive is led by the president. On 26th of November 2020, we have a handover report from the guild president. It means when the guild president hands over, we don't have executive. Where do we get that acting guild government? As we are seeing, we have a requisition asking for 13.094 millions from the university. And we have one of the guild contestants being the acting finance minister. Who appointed you? Which government? Let's stop there. We have other issues which are sought. The evidences are coming. This is part of the issues. This is constitutionalism. We are looking at accountability. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone who has come here to listen to all of us. My name is Mariam Ichulet Arikosi, and I am a guild aspirant for Mbarara University, and I'm here aspiring to be your next guild president. Today, we're going to discuss policy and constitutionalism. These are basically guidelines that dictate how we as students, how we as leaders can navigate throughout all these different spaces in our university. I'll talk about some policies that I believe that we need to look into. One of them is a health policy. As must, we do not have a health policy that can clearly reiterate how we can access healthcare services in line with healthcare providers, stock of medications, a clear student referral system in the event that the clinic cannot give you a service, an emergency healthcare package in scenarios like Chihumuro, which is miles and miles away from the referral hospital. In the event that something would happen at 2 a.m. in Chihumuro, they would be at the mercy of their friends, and yet they are very far away. So ideally, we would need an emergency healthcare package in the form of a vehicle that can quickly rush our friends to the hospital when in need. At the same time, we need support for people with mental health and equally those living with disabilities. We very well know that as students in the university, we face so many challenges in line with abuse of substances, mental health issues, depression. So in this health policy, we'll cater for all those different health issues. Then in our internship policy, we are going to make an addition to all the different faculties that equally have internship. We realize that, and rightly so, faculty of medicine students are facilitated in their internship, and equally other students in other faculties also go to different areas to do their internship, and they too need to be facilitated. Let alone that in this very internship period, even those of our friends in faculty of medicine didn't receive their due payments for what they did. So in this policy, we are going to clearly describe what exactly do we as students deserve, so that when we are demanding for accountability, we are basing on contracts that are made, unlike when we are asking for things that aren't written down. Secondly, in the fees policy, I would like to review Part C, which is about fees regulations, Article 2, which is about defaulting students, and subsection 2.1, where students who fail to complete their dues are exempted from doing papers. We can have a scenario where such students are allowed to do their exams and then sanctions put on them to stop them from proceeding, but having done their exams in the first place. And at the same time, in our foreign policy, which we are going to institute, this is basically guiding how we as a guild can make partnerships with very influential entities and organizations and people who can come to our university and render us the different services we need. And in this foreign policy, we'll equally source for scholarships for our fellow students, because we know very well that many of us face challenges finding the tuition to fulfill our responsibilities. So in this foreign policy, we'll clearly include issues of scholarships to our different students in the entire university from all faculties. At the same time, in our guild constitution, you realize that it's the guild president who appoints different ministers. But what this means is that sometimes some faculties are left out. So in our constitution, we have to put clauses that clearly show and describe that ministers that are chosen by the guild president should come from different faculties, such that there is representation. We have seen times whereby 90% of ministers come from a handful of the faculties, yet we are a multidisciplinary university. So henceforth, there must be clear descriptions of diversity and inclusion in our guild constitution. We also need an accommodations act where both people who reside outside and even within the university are protected. In different spaces, we will have a hostel database where all the different areas where you stay are known by the guilds, and at the same time, we can come in to help you in the event that you're facing challenges with your hostel owners. And in this act, there will be a clear description of the rights and responsibilities of both the hostel owners and the students, so that we avoid very many of the cases where we are exploited as students because we don't have a voice. At the same time, we have an ODEL policy, which is about online and distance e-learning. And in this policy, basically, we need to fight for our rights as students. You realize our LMS, by the way, is not student-friendly. So in this very policy, we need to fight and ensure that our LMS, our learning management system, is student-friendly. At the same time, in that very policy, our personal security online is not protected. As I speak now, I can log into any of your LMS systems because these details are publicly known. We as students deserve security in terms of our personal details, and that's equally in the ODEL policy. At the same time, we have a digital library, but without scenarios of having your student email, you will not have access to that policy, to that digital library. But we realize that our first years, thankfully, all of them received their student emails. But we as other coaching students haven't. So in that very scenario, we need to fight to ensure that we have access to our student emails so that we access the digital library
and have our password management ensured. So, as we go forward, I would like us to look closely on how we can work together to ensure that all the different scenarios where we as a guild and you, my fellow students, can work together collaboratively to ensure that all the different gaps are filled. But it starts with having leaders who you can trust and who you can count on. And that is me. Thank you very much.
So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Mutung Saedga. I do petroleum engineering and environmental management in my third year, aspiring to become your next guild president. Today's issue was about policy and constitutionalism. Two things we had to first differentiate. One is policy. We can have policy, but I think the issues are on implementation. For example, we have policy. We have a health policy. And it's definitely very clear and basic that we're supposed to have a university clinic. So whether we have it or not, or whether it has medicine or not, is an issue of the implementation of that policy, and not an issue of the review of that policy. So that's the problem. So what would we then do, and what policies would we have so that the implementation is really made? One, transport. There have been rumors the bus could be removed, the bus could be removed. I can tell you that is not possible and won't happen. Here is why. That even when you have the bus and you say that you have had a holes filled, the population that needs that bus, mainly ones from tomorrow, are over 680 now. Now, if those rooms can only contain about 250, where would the other 400 people would be staying? And as such, what justification would you give for the removal of the bus? That won't happen and that can't happen, principally. Easy. Number two was on the order policy. Now, the order policy, I think, whereas my sister's issue is about LMS advancement, but I would like to differ. My issue would be about the obligation and responsibility. You know, when you're designing policy, there are always responsibility of different stakeholders. We have ones for the administration, ones for the lecturers, the students. When you read that policy of the order policy, you find for the lecturers, they say they will be provided with data, they'll be given gadgets, they'll be given all that. But when they reach the student side, they say the students will access. That is unfair. You don't just say that these ones, for them, they will be given all the things they need, all the facilities they need, but for students' obligation, you just have them access. And another issue with that policy is that it is unconstitutional in and of itself, and that brings in the concept of unconstitutionalism. Because that policy, you don't just pass students' policies without student leaders. That policy was passed without any student representative in that meeting. That's why it shouldn't even exist in the first place. But even if it was supposed to exist, that's why we are going to review it. And that's why on 26th February, if you're there listening, just vote Mutung Saedga. By 15th March, that policy is going to be made clear. And the obligation on the student side are going to be fair. We are going to have data waivers for students, and that will be the basis that we're going to have advocate for the standard of Wi-Fi that we deserve. Now, the Wi-Fi issue, you don't need to speak about Wi-Fi policy. There's nothing like Wi-Fi policy and all that. These are amenities that we're supposed to have. We have hundreds of millions of these per year for Wi-Fi. But the issue is that these people just don't care. They don't always provide such. So what you're going to have is going to give them some kind of immense pressure to have them really review these things and bring some sanity. Now, the other idea, or the other post we would have to look at are the examination rules, still under, the examination policy. Because the idea is that currently they say if you miss an exam, in practice, that exam is given to you when next offered. And that's unfair. There must be a difference between a missed exam and just a retake. Whereas retakes are given while next offered, but exams missed, especially for some people here who are sportsmen and sportswomen. Sometimes you miss exam when you're in university duties. Some of us who have been debating, you go for a debate somewhere for how many weeks and you miss an exam, and then they're telling you have to do this exam when next offered. Missed exams should be done in a time, not necessarily when they're next offered, but in any time where there can be an arrangement with the lecturer, but then with notification, of course, to the deans and all that. So those are things we're going to try to look at, and then but then we have to examine really some things, especially about the fees policy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think there's some things which are impossible, because policies are not just things which you make out of circumstances. For example, 30 seconds. Okay, so policies, you don't just wake up and say because you think students now don't have money, you're going to say that this policy students can pay later after they have graduated. Trust me, when that policy can't be accepted even by the administration. Because when you do that, and I had my 1 million, I'm supposed to go for Valentine's, trust me, I'll go for Valentine's first, because I know I can do exams and I pay later after graduation. So what vice chancellor will allow that policy to happen? Yes, it sounds good. It sounds like you'll be saving a student, but it's impossible. In my next time, because my time is done, I'll give you what we are going to do about the fees policy, but not those promises that can never be enacted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our candidates. Now, given all that you've given us today, all that you've presented us according to your understanding of policy and constitutionalism, it is high time that you answered according to that what you know. So we shall go back in the same order, and I'll have Mr. Wilson step up, and we start from there. So, Mr. Wilson, you talked about the retake policy, and amidst the other policies, but I'd like to focus on the retake policy. The retake policy in maths does not allow for supplementary exams to be done. Therefore, if you've done an exam and you failed, or if you missed an exam, you have to do it when it is offered again. That will be the following year. So, as a member of the guild, or as the guild president, you're automatically allowed to become the seat on the university council. So how do you hope to help the students of maths overcome such issues as retake policy, depending on the circumstances that have brought them to that situation of getting a retake?
Thank you very much. Once again, Tumsime Hinda Wilson is my name. If you recall very well, I was talking about the retake policy. First thing I talked about, the justification for that retake. There are a number of reasons a student would get a retake. One is either you failed to get the required GPA to pass and go to proceed to the next year. Or maybe you have not done that exam and they told you that is going to be a retake. Well, a number of reasons as to why you're going to get that retake. Now we are looking at justifying that retake. Number one is that we are going to look into this student. How did you get that retake? Did you fail because you did not attend a specific number of lectures and the content that you were supposed to receive in those lectures is not enough to make sure that, or to enable you pass that exam? Then, if it can be proven that for the lectures that you attended, the content that you received from those lectures isn't what is enough to get you a pass or to make sure that you not get that retake, then now that is how we're going to, after that, what has happened after you've gotten that retake. A very good question is that, like it has been put to me, you are sitting on the university council and the student already has the retake, and it is only said that you are going to be offered the next exam. That is when you're going to sit for that retake. Now this is what we are talking about. We know that they do not allow supplementary exams, but we can only provide for a special exam. Now this is what I intend to implement as a guild president. We have a number of students that are going to be graduating come the next graduation session, but their fellows are not going to graduate because of a previous retake. Now what we are looking into, first what we need to implement is, for our students who are going to be graduating, why do not we then provide a special exam? It may not be necessarily a supplementary exam, but we can call for this exam. Now if you look into my manifesto, I talked about the credit no credit policy. Now this exam will come in that format. It is a credit no credit exam. That you sit for this exam, if you fail to get a 3.0 GPA in this exam, then you are required to wait for when the that exam will next be provided. That if you get this exam or sit this exam and you get that 3.0 GPA, then you will be allowed to move ahead and go for your graduation. Ladies and gentlemen, briefly, that is how I can take care of that issue for our graduating students. Then meanwhile, we shall be discussing and finding means to look into our fellow students who are in their other years that are not going to be graduates soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We shall have Mr. Isiko Mande step up. And remember, the candidates, you have 3 minutes to answer the question elaborately. Now, Mr. Isiko Mande, you talked about the tuition policy, and then you went down to the internship policy. As the guild president, the 31st guild president, and member of the university council, how do you hope to cater for the students in terms of internship? Because when you look at internship in itself, students sometimes are not accommodated or are not facilitated in terms of accommodation, transportation to the different areas, not even just in the business sector, but also even within the medical faculty, even within the engineering faculty. Internship is an issue. So how do you hope, in terms of constitution and policy, how do you hope to fight such issues on behalf of the students that you shall be representing?
Thank you so much, our moderator, for today's debate. Allow me use 1 minute to respond to one of the previous speakers who is misguiding the House. I feel so disappointed, and I share the grief of very many freshmen and women, that one of the members who is hoping to be a guild president with the time to come is not happy with the welcoming of the freshmen and women into the university. Section 5, which talks about the caretaker government, because I believe the candidate, I wouldn't blame him so much because he has come here because he was misguided. A meeting was, because one of the chairperson of this committee is the speaker, then part of the members, we have the dean of students. I want to bring it to your notice that the speaker chaired a meeting having consulted from the dean of students on how, after the previous guild executive and the guild handover by the president, having provided your document, that we provide a way how we can at least cater for the welcoming of the freshmen and women into the university. And this called for a meeting that was chaired by the speaker, who is the current chairperson of the EC, who is in this place right now. So the meeting was not unlawful. It was after consultation from the dean and from the chairperson of the chairperson currently. And then I feel so disappointed because the gentlemen and women who gave in their time to come and welcome the freshers, he's not happy that those people had to be bought for sanitizers, that they had masks to be catered for them, and that a few other things were requested which were supposed to be in favor of what? Of these students. I want to bring it to your notice that whatever facilitation happened during this week was as a result of a contribution from me. I want to bring it to your attention that there is no money which was given to the Students' Guild or to the committee which welcomed the freshers. All the contributions were from people. We had the Dean of Students and some other people who contributed towards this. There is no funding. Let no one come here to confuse the electorate. Thank you so much. Let me take now this time to respond to my question, which was about the internship policy. I want to also bring it to your notice that the medicine students or students from the Faculty of Medicine, when we are going for our internship is facilitated, the transport is refunded, and we are given the amount. The feeding allowances are given unto us. So this, I brought it here because it is something that is not fair. We are all students of Mbarara University and Security and Science. We have all paid our functional fees, and these functional fees is the same for the students in the Chihumro campus. It is the same for the students in the main campus. It is the same for the students who are in also the upper campus currently. So I want to bring it to your notice that this should not only be happening in the Faculty of Medicine. If at all it is happening for the Faculty of Medicine, why can't it happen for other students? So with power given to me as your next guild president, I hope to advocate for this because issues from the House, from the General Assembly arise. These are forwarded to the top management. From the top management, the Senate sits and they are forwarded to the top university council meetings. And this is how we hope to implement these. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We shall have Mr. Jones step up. So, Mr. Bwenje, you talked about the tuition policy and you outlined some of the issues that are vexing the students, at least in these COVID times. And one of the issues you mentioned are data costs and also the fact that the semesters have been cut short and the fact that the tuition in itself and the functional fees have not been in any way cut according to the time that should be. Now, secondly, how do you, as the member of the University Council and the guild representative to the students, how do you hope to come up, actually, how do you plan to fix these issues or at least find a way to help the students cope with the issues of data, the issues of the short semesters, or the issues of tuition and the functional fees themselves? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm John Jones Bwenje, a student-centered guild government that will be set in. Someone is saying that's why we brought this. Before I answer that, that is a small question. Before, someone is saying I'm not happy. I'm not happy because the constitution is not followed. Under the constitution is very clear. The caretaker government under Article 8, we shall have a caretaker government. And we have the constitution that is talking about who are members of the caretaker government, having the dean of students, having the speaker being the chairperson, having constituency GRC secretaries, having the legal advisor, having the financial, they have not died, having the chairperson convocation, they are all alive. Then a group of people is having a meeting to make a government. Which government was that? We are talking about where do you follow the constitution? That's why we are discussing the constitution. Another thing someone is saying, medical students are fully facilitated. I'm one of the people who was affected. Even data was not given. Are you sure they are fully facilitated? The money was transferred to the COVID task force. 334 millions were given and some money came back to the university. We need to know how the money flow was. We are looking at your question. Thank you so much. These are policies. Some of them are discussed. But as students, we have a voice. There is, I talked about the retake policy. We fought against the retake policy. As a leader who has served 2 executive governments, I was the president of Mass Forum, I was the health minister. I've also been served by 2 governments that followed just while watching. We have a way to do this. I know the language that these men and women understand. The language of student voices coming together. The way we fought against retake policy, when the guild president was better, he came back to the executive, told us, brother and sister, this is what is going on. There is a policy coming on board. We went for dialogues, they didn't work out. We went on streets. The policy was just corrected within a week. Why not the tuition policy? When as students we discuss and decide in the General Assembly, let's go on the street with the guild president in the gown at the forefront. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bwenje. Ms. Arikosi, thank you so much for coming. You talked about the health policy, and you say that as MUST or as Mbari University of Science and Technology, we lack a health policy, and there is no implementation for such policies, especially for students of Chifumuro. And even those at the main campus, there is no any clear pathway for their health plan. You as a member of the University Council and as the guild president, how do you hope to address such issues, especially for the ladies and the gentlemen of MUST?
Thank you very much. Really grateful to be here. Just to clarify, I'm really very honored when my fellow competitors here actually get inspired by what I said. My friend Mande talked of the internship policy in relation to people who did internship for 3 weeks being given a chance to do internship after. And then I spoke of us having facilitation through internship, which he then came back to also get onto his addition.
Then thirdly, to Mr. John Jones, I spoke of how the Faculty of Medicine has facilitated internship, but in this particular cohort, they weren't facilitated. So I'm very aware of that. I spoke of this in relation to how other faculties that equally have internship also need facilitation, which my friend Mande equally brought on. And on the health policy, for those of you to move through Chihumuro, the university clinic in Chihumuro is currently empty and is housing mattresses. When I moved through this facility last year, while it was empty, at least it was clean. But now it is housing mattresses. So if you are to come back in the next 4 months, maybe it will be a food store as well. So clearly, there is no prioritization of the health of our fellow students, because how can we have our residents in the halls of Chihumuro and we don't have a system that actually caters for their health? Not even only those who only reside in Chihumuro, but there are those who equally come and study here. And we too, because we have Wi-Fi issues in town campus, we come to Chihumuro to access very many of their great services. So once we are here and we are vulnerable to our healthcare challenge, how are we going to move forward? We very well know that just from the journey from the hall to the main road is quite long. When you finally reach the main road, you won't even find a motorcycle or a car. So clearly, at 2 a.m. or at 3 a.m., if anything happened to a friend of mine in Chihumuro, I would be very saddened to what would happen. At least in town campus, our friend can easily rush you to the nearest healthcare clinic, maybe with 2K or 1K. But here, they are very, very vulnerable. So I am going to work very closely with the management and also with external organizations to ensure that we have a healthcare policy and service provided. For those of you who know, there's a body called SID Global, and they work mainly with emergency healthcare. I have worked with them in through other entities where they facilitate different emergency healthcare issues. We as a guild are recognized both locally, nationally, and even internationally. We can reach out to such people like SID Global. We can work with them and have a system where we have an emergency healthcare package in our university, and in Chihumuro, an ambulance, a vehicle that can quickly rush our fellow friends to the hospital. And in this healthcare policy, it isn't only about an emergency healthcare package. Even our hygiene and sanitation is equally in this very issue. You find that in town campus, our hygiene, our water services is very low. So we as students, while we come here for academics, you cannot excel academically or sports-wise in any way when body, mind, and soul, you are ill, you are unhealthy. And we all know health isn't just the absence of disease or infirmity. It's general well-being in terms of emotions, physical, mental, psychological, and in all these areas. So we as a guild, we basically are here to promote and protect the rights and interests of our fellow students. So believe me, like I said, our health is very, very important. And trust me, these are one of the things that I'm going to try within the first month. You are going to see a change. We have no nurses in Chihumuro as we speak. While in town campus they exist, we need to have 24-hour healthcare service. They can work in shifts, and at all times you have a healthcare package. There are scenarios where you don't have to go to the referral hospital. Primary medical healthcare issues can be found in the university clinic. And then in the event that you are sent to the referral hospital, there needs to be a clear pathway of how exactly you're going to navigate the hospital. Some of you are coming from maybe faculty of business or FAST. If I told you go to the microbe lab, you may not know how to go there. I asked a BSP student and they also did not know. So we need to have a clear pathline, a student help desk in the hospital where we can get these services. Our university has an MOU with the referral hospital. We will clearly read through this MOU and see where are the gaps and how do we come in to ensure that our health is equally a priority. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Arikosi. May we please have Mr. Mutunjisa step up? Thank you, Mr. Mutunjisa. Now, Mr. Mutunjisa, you are the Constitution Minister of the outgoing guild body, right? So, as the Constitution Minister, how have you and how do you actually hope, as the guild president and member of the University Council, how do you hope to tackle issues of gender disparities in this university? How do you hope to empower the women of this prestigious university to actually step up into leadership, to step up or to actually be looked at as people who are deserving of the same rights that the gentlemen of this campus enjoy, given the health policies that are not in place, especially in the residential areas?
Okay, thank you so much. Last time we were talking about the gender issue, and some brother was saying that people should dress decently, ladies, for them not to be raped. And I was telling them that ladies don't have to put on gomeses not to be raped. So the issue is not the dress code and anything. The issue is that we have to make these people aware. Some students don't even know the extent of sexual harassment. Some think sexual harassment is just when they are raped. But there's more to that. But people don't really know about that. So we're going to sensitize them. Number two, we're going to have a gender desk under the Ministry of Gender, where these people who face such harassment can actually report, and we make sure that their identity is really not exposed, because we understand how that is a big threat to many ladies out there. That's what we're going to do. But beyond that, ladies and gentlemen, when discussing policy, it's important that we look at the feasibility. Because my sister says Chumuro has a problem. He says the clinic is stocked with mattresses, maybe you could have food. But then he thinks the solution to that is to have an ambulance. I don't think that's a solution. The solution to that is to have the drugs for these people. And the other idea is simple. Why really, guys? The Barari Faro Hospital has one ambulance. One ambulance. It costs 600 million. Our guild president thinks within this period of 5 months, he's going to have money to buy for us an ambulance here, maybe also for town campus. 600 million with a 70 million budget or 80 million budget. That's impossible. But second, let's assume that was really possible. Let's assume it was possible. Why do you have to buy us coffin first before giving us the basic health? I don't think tomorrow people need an ambulance. Tomorrow people need their clinics stocked. They need an attendant there, not ambulances. Those ones of emergency plans will come late. I don't think that is really urgent, and that's where my clash is. But then also, we have to be honest. Today, I attended Mass at Corpus, and because we are in a Lent period, the priest was advising us to be honest. I don't think it's honest when you say, my brother Isiko, that, that you funded people, you funded a guild executive, that you were the volunteering committee. No, there was guild business running. You were selling gowns. So guys who are funded, probably it was money from gowns. You are not a philanthropist. That's not true. But, but really also, you know, when we talk about the facilitation, he's saying that she wants to change the internship policy, and he doesn't want to be unfair the way it is currently, where only medical people are facilitated. But sometimes, since you've been a leader, we've been the same government. Mr. Isuko, you were responsible someday, I remember, for distributing club dome tickets. Some students here could testify, or some have heard those rumors, that some bought those tickets when they're supposed to be for free. But I can surely tell you, I don't know any medicine student who has ever complained that they bought a ticket for club dome. So if you are able to give those people free club dome tickets while selling them to others, how sure can we that you really advocate for a policy of internship that brings fairness to other faculties and not your faculty? It's hard. So, yeah, otherwise, we thank so much. My time is done.
So, at this point in time, I would like to request the House to clap our candidates for the presentation. And I would like to ask the candidates to keep whichever questions they have for each other for later. We're going to have questions from the House at this point. Then after that, we shall come back to the cross sections here. Now, if there are any questions to the House, please, you stand up, you have a minute to address your question, and you're going to address it specifically to a special candidate of your choice. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, moderator. I'm called Atwine, and my question is to Eculate. Very articulate, but we have had 2 rounds of guild presidential guild presidents running. This is the 3rd, and the things really, when you speak, they don't normally materialize. So my question is, how shall you do what you're proposing? You have good plans, yes, but how shall you do it? You say that you shall read the memorandum of understanding. Why haven't you read it? What are you waiting for? So how are you going to do it in actual sense? Tell us the modus operandi.
Okay, thank you. My name is Chante, a petroleum engineering student at FAST. I have two questions. And the first one goes to all the gents on the panel. What are the key aspects of achieving policy and constitutionalism? And then my second question is addressed to Mr. Edgar. You speak of the bus transporting students to Chumro as be removed. But I want to ask you, under what policy and the act of the Constitution was the bus given to transport the students to Chumro? Such that I do not have my colleagues who are in Katete complaining that they pay the same functional fee and they never use the bus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Egon Akandwa now doing Econ and I'm in year one. My question goes to Madam Alkos. You've talked about data issues. We are in year one, we know nothing about online learning. We haven't gotten used to anything. You people, we were told to pay the functional fee, the whole of it, and we paid. But we are here confused about data issues because we're supposed to be at campus. We are now in the second week. I'm not even sure whether we are going to have classes tomorrow. So I think we should address this and tell us what next. Thank you.
Tsime Patricia. My question goes to Mr. William. You talked about the retake policy. I'm wondering, how feasible is it? Because you're telling us you're going to compare the content the lecturers gave. If it is worth for you to get a retake, then you can take, then the student can have the retake. Really, is that saving? Is that saving a student? Because the lecturer who taught you and you failed is the same lecturer who taught others and they passed. So, will it really be a saving solution to students?
Thank you so much. May I have a concern? I came here to listen to you guys, and I thought that you people, you're well versed with whatever you're going to talk about. But I just got information where one of the candidates was explaining something, but I wasn't really getting. You're talking about 0.3 GPA, what? I don't understand that. So you guys, as you come to talk to us, try to understand what you're talking about.
Well, I'm at young Aaron, doing electrical and electronics engineering. My question goes to Mr. John Jones. It is not the first time, I think today is the second time that I'm hearing like you're talking about, is it why can't we protest, something connected to protesting and to implement some of these things on board, like these constitution issues. Does it mean we have to first protest before we get some of these things included into the constitution, or you have to work for us and see that what we have given you or what we have suggested is put into consideration? So maybe just help me and explain, is it all about rioting or you forwarding these things?
Thank you so much to the House. So, in the order of questions, we're going to have Ms. Arikosi step up, and I'll summarize the questions that have been addressed to you, and we can start from there. You have 3 minutes to answer all the questions. Yeah, we are pressed with time, so I'll start. The first question was about the data issue, and also the second question, which I think is the same question, is about the feasibility of all the policies and basically your manifesto, and how feasible is it to this very situation or to the people of Mbarara University. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would just like to tell my fellow comrades in this room that I have been a leader in our beautiful university, a leader who wasn't in the guild where there's a budget. I've been a leader in different scenarios where there's no budget, but you have to make things happen. And I made things happen. How? I mobilize resources. I make partnerships. I have the skills to negotiate. I have the skills to make things come out of thin air where they weren't there. And in my leadership, I have creatively dedicated myself right from first year to do everything I possibly could to make a difference with my fellow students. Without you giving me the mandate, without me being answerable to you, I woke up each day figuring out how best can I make the lives of my fellow students better. Unlike many of our comrades in this room who probably were in the guild, who had a budget and still could not make things happen, I have done several things in my leadership. And for example, I'll give you a couple of snapshots. I did several sexual reproductive health outreaches in different accommodation areas in the university, Tasso, Kacheka, Cash, where I would come and give free SRH services to fellow students, in line with STI testing, family planning, screening, vaccinations, and I would make partnerships where I would work with RHU, marriage, and then would come and help our fellow students. I personally, in the health outreach of 2019-2020, the health camp, I wrote a survey where we got responses from students in line with their SRH needs. And in that survey, I personally, with a couple of my fellow students, went to our dean's office and advocated for our university clinic having SRH services. I wasn't a guild leader. I didn't have to do this, but I did. Why? I care about you. And as we speak now, our clinic in town has FP services being offered. We'll do the same thing for Chihumuro. I personally organized a 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. For those who pass through Upper Campus, you will see a mural. No one did that. It was the first of its kind. I didn't have to do that. If I didn't, you would not look for me. But I did. Why? I care about you. And we did this twice in a row. I personally not only care about you, my fellow math students, but even those outside the rest of the country. I organized a health camp in Palisa district where I worked with fellow students in Mbarara from all programs, nursing, medicine, PHS, gender, and even other programs. And we went to Palisa district and served over 600 people in line with SRH. I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to work with my fellow students, but I did because I do care. And I'm here today to give you the test of leaders who you've never had before. Those who actually care about you and are invested in looking for novel resources to make things happen. We can't always keep depending at all times on the management. No, we can't. We are a guild. We are students. We can make partnerships. We can make anything happen. My friend here has talked about an ambulance, that it isn't important. Yes, it is. In Chihumuro, as we speak right now, at 1 a.m., if an emergency happened, someone could die. Our health is basically about time. Any delay to reach a health service can cause you death. So that is an emergency, my fellow friend. Maybe because you live out of campus. But those who stay in Chihumuro, you know very well that moving from hall to the main gate is hard. And we are going to work to make these things happen. I bring things out of thin air. We won't only depend on the 70 million peanuts that we get in the guild budget. No, we won't. We are going to make things happen that have never happened before. All I ask of you is to trust me. That's why our slogan is leadership we trust. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Arikosi. The other question that was asked, I think, was addressed to the gentleman in the house. But for purposes of being fair, a few questions have been addressed to Mutunji sir. And Mr. Bwenja has a question of his own, and Mr. Wilson. So I'll ask Mr. Mande to answer that question on behalf of the gentleman. And the question is, what are the key aspects of achieving policy and constitutionalism?
Once again, before you is Isiko Mande, one of the Guild presidential aspirants. Now, while one of the members comes here, I will respond to that. While one of the members comes here to say that the money he was given because he signed for some money, it was from Guild gowns which were currently being sold by me. Then he comes out here to say, I don't know that he is well informed. Club Dome is not a must-happen event. That is why the regime before us, it didn't happen. It happened because of my lobbying capacities, capabilities, because of the efforts I put in. Let us make the right choice. We don't know what happens when we put the next leaders in office. Because if someone comes out and says that tickets were sold, Club Dome is an event. We as must were given 2,000 coupons, and other coupons were distributed to other universities, and others were meant to be sold by the Club Dome the Club Dome owners. Well, the key aspects of the different policies, members, if at all a policy, before a policy is implemented, let us look at, is this policy reliable? Is this policy attainable? Can this policy be adapted into the student community? Looking at the different policies we have talked about, we addressed the policy of the internship policy, we talked about the retake policy, I talked about the fees policy. Most of these policies are policies that can be attainable. While one of the Guild presidential aspirants comes here to say that a student who has paid up around 70%, he cannot guarantee because the budget is going to keep paying up. We were clear when we were giving the conditions under which someone can sit exams. If at all a candidate has paid 70%, and this student specifically has reasons that have failed him, because it is never an agreement between the student and the administration. It is an agreement between the student and the parent. I want to bring it to your notice. One of the very candidates we are with here, we were with him when we took a group of students to the academic registrar, students who had pending balances, and these students were helped. Well, he comes here and he says that this is impossible. It makes me question my mind. Members, as I leave the podium, I want to encourage the master students, let us vote a Guild president, one we can be identified out with, one who is promising us policies that are going to affect him or her. Thank you so much. I remain Isiko Mande. We are the change we seek.
Thank you so much, Mr. Isiko Mande. I would like to invite Mr. Wilson to talk about the retake policy and address the question that has been raised today.
Yes, thank you very much. All the questions left posed to me all are about the retake policy. It's so good the gentleman has returned. The gentleman who says somehow he's not understanding what I was talking about the credit, no credit policy. Now, this situation that we are looking at was a situation where a student has already been given a retake by the same lecturer who taught that student, and the student got a retake and the fellow students never got a retake. Now, we understand, or I understand, that the student body is not a monolith and that there are inequalities in how we perceive or get this content that we are being given into our brains and how to process this and bring it out on paper. Now, I'll start with the lady who said she's not getting how I am helping how I'm going to compare these notes and all that. I was looking at the justification for getting this retake. We are being asked, or we are asked by the examination rules and regulations that you will get a retake, or in the retake policy, that you will get a retake if you have attended at least 80% of these lectures. Now we are looking at the justification, how does this student attend these lectures? And my reasoning was here. You are doing online classes, we are having online classes. It has been a general complaint. The same one gentleman from economics talked about it. He hasn't attended lectures and he's not sure whether he's going to attend lectures tomorrow. Now, in this situation where you're not sure about tomorrow's lecture, yet you are here to study, you are not even sure that that lecturer is going to be around. Now, we are looking at this. Is the lecturer going to be around? We now go into accountability for that time. We were supposed to have a lecture of economics or econometrics at this time, or electronics for students who are doing engineering this side, electrical engineering, computer engineering, that kind of thing. So we are looking at a lecture stated for 8 a.m. about electronics. The lecturer hasn't showed up. So that means even the student hasn't got that knowledge that he's supposed to be getting from the lecturer. Then in the end, you are being given a retake because during that time you are supposed to receive certain content of your course unit, but you didn't. And it has been said, it has arrived or appeared in the exam. So we are looking at that. It can be done, and we can compare this content and the notes that the students were supposed to receive and what they have received. I hope I am answering you. I still need to talk about the credit, no credit. Well, there's no credit. We are saying this is the new policy. It may seem alien to our ears, but we are saying, because the student body is not a monolith, we are looking at this policy now that the student already has a retake. We are giving the student a supplementary exam with a clause in that supplementary exam that you must get a GPA of 3.0. I am saying I understand the policy that we are bringing. If I do not understand very well to your expectation, please, we are free and we shall reach out to you. You will help us. That if you do not get a 3.0 GPA in this exam, supplementary exam, then you will have to wait for when the exam will next be given. But if you get the 3.0, then you qualify to go ahead with your graduation. Like I said, we're starting with students who are graduating. Then we can look at other students. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson. So I'd like to invite Mr. Mutunji, sir, to tell us what policy what policy do the Chumro students who are non-residents have to rely on in order for their transportation to be a sure deal for them?
Thank you so much. That lies under the welfare policy. Whereas it's not one of people think this is a privilege, and yes, could be arguably be said to be a privilege, but the dean, especially the university and the dean's office, has an obligation to students as regards to their welfare. That is why, whereas the hostels, inspection and all that is not in your admission letter, but still the dean's office does that because they have to cover for the welfare of their students, and that's why even the bus comes in. Because students have to study, and as such, the dean's office has an obligation to make sure that there's welfare fit enough for these students access such kind of lectures. And that's why the bus cannot be removed on that principle. So, now the other question that came here was an issue of lobbying. My brother is commander says he's a lobbyist. My sister is a lobbyist. Wenje is a lobbyist. Everyone is a lobbyist. But look, ladies and gentlemen, do you really think Mbarara Regional Referral Hospital has no good lobbyists to have at least 2 ambulances? We have one of 600 million. And all these events that my sister is talking about are all issues related to gender. The SHR here, the SHR here, you know, this medical reproduction and all those thoughts. This is why you just come and partner. These are programs being run by institutions. And then you just come in and you also participate. But you don't impose a new program in that regard. So that is the difference here. I thought maybe you would have told us an example where you lobbied for some vehicle somewhere, you know, of 400 million. Maybe there you would have told us that you can lobby for that ambulance. So really, but even if you are also to go about that, I think the issue of an ambulance is not that Chumra people may not want an ambulance. Truthfully is, they may want an ambulance, but that's not urgent. Because they're urgent issues. I don't think, yes, people always get headache, people always have issues. Now, instead of even just giving them some paracetamol or even some really nice drug that they don't have, your mind is, for tomorrow, just give them an ambulance. So anyone who gets a headache, you want them to first get that ambulance comes and takes them. We're saying, no, that's not urgent. The urgent issue is, let's have their clinic stocked before the ambulances can come in. And anyway, if any person is to be that much intense to the need of an ambulance, really, that's why you make calls and all that. There's even a toll-free number for that hospital, so that that person can be picked. So you can't prioritize an ambulance now. It's like prioritizing a coffin when you can't even take someone to hospital. Chumra people need urgent things, and that is medical. The basics, they don't even have the basics. They need a full-time nurse, whereby even the 3 a.m. issue we're talking about, this person can attend to them. And why it's a very critical emergency, you can call an ambulance to pick them. You don't need to prioritize buying an ambulance now over giving these people the basic, the best health care that they need. So this was an issue of priority. And I think that's what Chumra people need, and any person would need. Really. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mtunjisa. Now, lastly, we're going to have Mr. Boenje Jones address the issue whether everything policy-wise is related to a protest.
Thank you so much. That is the good question addressed to someone who has already dealt with a policy. That was a retake policy. Under Article 8 of the Guild Constitution, we have power functions and powers. The GRC House can initiate the policy and forward the policy. The executive looks at the policy, and the head of the executive is the Guild President. If a policy is affecting students, the Guild President sits on different committees. We have Academics and Welfare Committee, we have the Council, we have Top Management and Senate. If the policy, that is a good way. You have discussed, you have gone there, but issues are not coming out. You get back and got back the Constitution. Under the same article, organs of the Guild, under Article 7, Assembly, which is presided over by the Speaker. Working with the Guild President, the Speaker calls for a General Assembly, talking about the issue that is affecting students. That is a policy. Students have discussed and have resolved certain issue. Now we want this. How do we go about it? You can decide either way. You can either go, address it, back. Students have signatures. They have said they want this issue to be solved. If not, we have to raise up our voices. That is plan D. All those, we have plan A, B, C, D. D, that is the climax. When things have failed, as students, we have decided to go on the street. As students, we have decided to address the media. As students, we have gone to the parliament. Of course, that's the answer for that. Clarity on certain issues. Someone came here said, is advocating for students, general student population, about the internship policy. I haven't have had enough experience better than these ones. In the Guild issues, I've served as a minister twice in 2 executive governments, and later I let them serve us. In the process, when I was a health minister, there are different issues we did. I had an accountability. I only used 200,000 for all the activities, including hepatitis B vaccination, having put drug boxes to different hostels, which they have not even refilled. Talking about the clinic, we had also advocated for a doctor who was working in the hospital 2 days per week. Now these people would be telling us, now the doctor works for 7 days, but they are telling us they don't even have a nurse. Talking about other issues, advocating for general population of students, we talk about the club dome. When I was the health minister, as executive, we looked at must community. We advocated for use of IDs. Every student was allowed in using IDs. What do you do? 2,000 for a population of 4,500. I'm going to bring a receipt about the club dome. We used 1 million for hiring the press. We have other issues for you. You know how much you used, and you said it is an external event. Talking about Wi-Fi, we have an issue of Wi-Fi. Most students need Wi-Fi. As an informed Guild President, I know the service provider for most Wi-Fi is UTL. If I would ask how many students here have UTL SIM card, I last heard about UTL in 2014. Makerere University has already moved to Airtel. Chambogo has gone to MTN and part of it is Airtel. Why not mass students? That's why we advocate for different policies as mass students. Talking about the same issue, Wi-Fi shouldn't be limited to campus. I've already started an issue looking at Lockspot and having service providers to different areas of residences. In Kashanyaras, I've already started the pilot study of bringing Lockspot. It is already on. Now we are looking at boosting. If it works in Kashanyaras, we shall extend it Katete, we shall extend it Tasso Village, we shall extend it other places. We don't wait to sit in the office to look for those issues. Thank you so much.
Let's clap for our candidates. There is a follow-up question. I got one follow-up question from the audience, and we're going to have that one question, then we shall come to the cross-sectional questions.
Once again, I'm called Atwine. My question goes to Ruhinda. Ruhinda, very articulate also. But you say that you will make a retake policy. Are you going to make a retake policy based on COVID? 10 years from now, will you still be using that retake policy? Will COVID still be there? Because it seems the policy is based only on COVID.
Thank you very much, sir. The retake policy, now, we are having two sections of this retake policy. We are having at a student getting that retake during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are having at a time after the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, for the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, that is where we are looking at, now first looking into the content that this student was supposed to cover. This can even also apply even after the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, that is why I say two sections now. The first section is looking at the content. Now, the second section of the the policy now brings us to the credit, no credit policy under that retake policy. That this one can even stay with us. That is why I said the graduating students. Students are not only going to graduate this time that we are in the COVID-19 pandemic, they are going to graduate even after. So this credit, no credit policy can stay with us, and it should stay with us even after the COVID-19 pandemic. That when you are graduating or in your final year and you get a retake, you do not have to sit and wait for when the exam will be next given, but you can have that exam done on that credit, no credit policy, that you either get a 3.0 GPA and move on with graduation, or if not, that is when you will have to sit and wait. We are giving you that option to do the exam and pass, or do the exam. If you fail, you have to come back. This can all stay with us even after.
Thank you so much. Now, we're going to have the candidates cross-examine themselves. So these are the rules. You all have 1 minute to ask the question to whichever candidate you choose. You cannot ask two candidates, you only ask one. Secondly, you have 2 minutes when you ask the question to address that question. So you will have 2 minutes to answer whichever question has been addressed to you as a candidate. The third is that you can only ask one candidate. I've already stated that. Then also, you have the opportunity to only ask one candidate. So, I'll begin with Mr. Isiko Mande. You pick a candidate, you ask them the question, and we move on.
I'm Isiko Mande once again, and my question goes to Honorable Edgar. Now, Honorable Edgar, among one of the things you have promised is to give back the power to the GRCs. As a former Minister of Constitutional Affairs, I want you to tell the House, have you just realized that this is necessary? Did you have the power to do it then? What did you do about it then? Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Isiko. Mr. Edgar, you have 2 minutes to answer that question. Your time starts now.
Thank you so much. Yes, I was the Minister of Constitutional Affairs, and one of my roles was not to assume the powers of the President. The President is the one supposed to pass on the resolutions we make as GRCs to the Council. So in no way would I, as the Minister, then assume that role to get those dropped resolutions to Council. So I could not have the powers to address such And yet, in reality, in principle, those resolutions were supposed to be taken to council and not just dropped on that floor. So, my role, of course, I did of guidance and I guided. But then, the person supposed to present those did not present them. And so I could not assume the powers of the guild president, and that's why we really not have nothing to do with it. And that's why, when I'm given that role as the guild president, I have to make sure that I put that principle in practice, and not just on paper, but just neglected by individual mindset and individual interests. So that's why you should support me, so that you can see real resolutions taken back.
So the next candidate at House is going to be Miss Arikosi. You pick a candidate, ask them a question in a minute, and they'll have 2 minutes to answer that question. Miss Arikosi?
Thank you so much. My question equally goes to Honorable Edgar. He clearly was the Minister of Justice and Social Affairs. And we keep seeing scenarios where the GRC officials blame every single failure of their guild to a guild president. And yet, as a Minister of Justice and Social Affairs, you have the mandate and the authority to hold someone accountable. As a guild house, when a leader is doing things with impunity, you have the authority to impeach them with a vote of no confidence, or even holding a general assembly to the rest of the fraternity. And then when we have people coming together, we can impeach a leader. So why is it that people are bringing out such scenarios later when the guild president then has already gone? Yet during that time, when they were in office, they did nothing.
Time
so I would like to know, when you were in office, you did nothing. Why do you want to come back now and still do nothing?
2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, number one, I think number one is an issue of information. One, the Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister does not have the obligation to hold people accountable. There is a committee in that house, in the JRC house, when you get there. It's called the ad hoc committee. It is one that has the responsibility to hold these people accountable. What the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs does is that where there is any clash on a constitutional issue and needs interpretation, you make sure you provide interpretation. And that interpretation is final unless challenged by 2/3 of the House. For the record, all the interpretations that I made, all those interpretations that I made, none was ever challenged. I could make them and they could stand. There are many resolutions when you check those minutes that we passed, but they are not, I don't know, taken on to council. And that's why I even went further when that was, something that these guys could not really put. I was the first minister who drafted the first rules of procedure, something which has never happened for the 32 years that we existed. So why I did that was to restore some sanity in systems, some value. And that's why really I'm saying we're laying foundations. Because we're tired of these people who just come and assume that they think these things are going to be taken. So I think that is very addressed, right? And then you people, you must understand this, that there's a problem. That when you have served in a past government, everyone wants to use that as, because they've not been there. But when you get there, realize that some people suffocate the power. And that's why if you ask your GRC of gender, tell me what she ever did, that side of gender. Nothing. You know why? He had no power. Even when you elected her or him. So that shows to you how really you have to change all that system. And trust me, I've experienced. I have been also, sabotaged by that system. And that's why you can trust me. That with my tenure, with my regime, that is going to change completely. So if you want systems that work, systems that function, not just for individuals, but for all of you, that's why you should vote Edgar.
Thank you.
That's why.
So, Mr. Edgar, Mr. Mtunjisa, you have the opportunity to ask one candidate a question, and they'll have 2 minutes to answer that question.
Okay. My question, today because I went for mass, as I said, it's a question of honesty. So, Mr. Siko, you made very many claims. Number one, that Kalabudom happened because you lobbied. But that's not true. Kalabudom is regional. It rotates in regions. And as a matter of fact, I can bet you can't have Kalabudom back this year. Trust me, even if I became a guild president, it wouldn't happen. JJ knows that. It's regional. It's not about lobbying. Number two, let's assume you lobbied. Now, you had 2,000 tickets, you say, to give for free. And then you say some other people would sell them. Then how come your ministry would sell the tickets that were meant to be free? And some specific class of people.
Thank you.
So why do we trust you, really, Isiko, that you won't, in any case, become a good president? that you won't do such mistakes again. Probably just. And even
thank you.
when we are having these committees, Isiko is running for things of, acting finance. We say, let's welcome freshers. That's why people like us, we are leading orientation programs.
Thank you, Mr.
Programs
Edgar.
that are just, voluntarily and in nature to make people comfortable. But Isiko goes for only finances, club room, you sell tickets. Isiko, should we trust you?
Well, Honorable Edgar, allow me inform you that much as you're saying that the Club Dome event is is an event which is supposed is a regional event, it was not a must for us to hold it in must on one of our grounds. And two, if at all you're talking to people who are informed people, the Club Dome has not it has not happened first here in the Western region, and members outside there know that even elsewhere in other regions, the one which was held in the Eastern region, even people had to pay for it actually. I hope we are aware about this. Then, I'm not talking about the one which happened in the West. I'm talking about the one which happened in the East. I'm sensitizing you. Then, much as Honorable Edgar keeps saying that today, today is a Sunday. We attended Mass together from Corpus. We attended Mass together. We later on went to St. Luke, both of us. It is to my disappointment that Honorable Edgar comes out here to say that he had all activities happen voluntarily and he was not given something. I now question the issue of being honesty. Another issue, much as Honorable Edgar is here telling us, he as the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, in a meeting that was chaired by the current speaker right now, he as the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, he should have guided or should have halted this meeting from happening because he's supposed to guide us according to what the Constitution says. And lastly, members, don't be misguided. Whatever the meeting which happened was in order to make sure that the orientation week goes as a success. There is no acting guild government right now. If someone is, right now we don't have the speaker, we are supposed to be having graduated and left the finished the exams, is out of the institution. We are having the deputy speaker acting as a speaker. The word acting, I think, Honorable Edgar, I don't know whether you understand the English. The current deputy speaker is acting as a speaker. So if someone has been told to be a finance commissioner during the orientation week where we expected people to come and take part, well, these people finally didn't come after communication from the AR's office. It makes me question his honesty. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We all went to church. Actually, maybe they didn't see some of us. We were in a church. I went to Corpus first. They preached about honesty. I went to another church. That was St. Luke. The preacher was clear. And we were talking about readers. I don't know. They knew that we were coming. It was saying, the preacher was clear. Said, when you're a leader, you don't want bad things to happen when you're in office. I like talking about evidenced things. Some of the questions they might not answer. My question will be directed to Isiko Mande. This is the question that won't be answered. Mr. Edgar said he was sabotaged by the government when he's part of the government. I don't know. Whatever you did, when you become a minister, you cease to be a student. Don't answer that one. I have a requisition for their government, the one we know, not the acting things. They are saying, after the television sets were stolen, the Minister of Social Affairs procured 2 Sony projectors which students were using to watch and sound amplifiers because this was only way to keep students busy and entertained. We opted for projectors because they are used and kept, unlike TVs which are pressed in cages and easily stolen. The minister needs to be reimbursed. We have a receipt. Yes, we have a receipt. 2 Sony projectors were bought at 2.7 millions. 2 portable amplifiers were bought at 1.4 millions. And the university auditor cleared them. Where are they? Mutunjisa Edgar, you printed out rules of procedures, 12 millions. They are here. Plus other money. They are here.
Now, members. Well, I think today all we are here. It is a question of honesty. Now, someone presents a receipt by EC Commando, which was signed and received by Mumza Uma. Then I'm seeing Chiemba. Members, I have my national ID with me. Let this paper circulate around, and you check the signature against this receipt, because that is all we need. And then let us be guided. As the Minister of Social Affairs, I'm not in charge of that is in the, let me guide, I think, Honorable John Jones, one of the people I would like to put into my government because of his ideas. He has come out here to tell people about the screens. Screens were supposed to be something in charge of what? The Prime Minister. That is your information. Is the one in charge of guild property. Then one thing, I'm supposed to ensure that all students get all the entrainment. I used to subscribe the subscription fees of the DSTVs. That was my part as the Minister of Social Affairs. But however, when these screens were stolen, I went ahead to the police station and I reported the case. There is a reference number of the case by EC Commande as the Minister of Social Affairs. As a concerned member of the guild, I didn't stop their members. I went ahead to look for ways of at least providing entertainment to the students who used to stay in hall. Even yesterday, they were able to watch the Liverpool game. They were able to watch the Liverpool game. Efforts of the Minister of Social Affairs, who was in the office trying to at least make sure that the students continue with entertainment. Why would we start producing some things which don't even have evidence?
Oh, yeah, so you see, one of the things you have to look in for leaders is now beyond honesty, but it's also some really, values. Now, here is a receipt that has things like guild news, GRC identity cards, and is claiming that that's a receipt of the Constitutional Affairs Minister of 12 million. Here is the total of 12 million. So, that's how authentic this information is. But we can understand why you brought such, But look, of course, sympathy votes. Now, look, so now when you talk about subscription fees, Mr. Siko, this will be another question. You see, we had TVs here in Chumuru. We didn't have any TV. We only had one, which was given by one of the other contestants. And I came to this guy's office. We were requesting for only subscription. As these guys are buying, trying to replace the stolen TVs, the other side. So, Mr. Siko, if you could plan to buy new TVs for the stolen ones, you couldn't give subscription fee to one of a TV that you haven't even bought in Chumuru. Why should even get any vote from here?
As a minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, I'm sure he well knows that screen was given to us by Kenya, one of the NRM, one of the people who lost by then. And before the guild takes a step to subscribe to any of the responsibilities it has, it must first be confirmed and converted to become guild property. That screen was not handed over to the responsible people. We don't know it as part of the guild. We don't know it as part of the guild property. There is no way we can subscribe for something we don't know.
Thank you very much. And now, a lot of honesty, dishonesty, call it what you want. I am now coming back as an audit associate. I'll still now come back to these documents that we have received here. Well, this question now is directed to Mr. John Jones. There is a part where he talked about lobbying for or getting emergency boxes, getting medical practitioners on a budget of 200,000 Uganda shillings, ladies and gentlemen. 200,000 Uganda shillings. Let's be honest. Unless you're looking for a vote of sympathy from your fellow students, there is no way that would be possible financially. We have done auditing and all that kind of thing. And we want to know the authenticity, because all these documents that we are having here in front of us, they have showed us. We are also not sure about these gentlemen that are denying these documents. But Mr. John Jones, tell us the authenticity of these documents. And unless you're looking for a sympathy vote, that 200,000 providing for a medical practitioner or a medical personnel, really, is it?
Thank you so much. As a health minister, then I used 200,000 from the guild budget. Only 200,000. We had hepatitis B vaccination. We talked to the service provider. We don't need any money from the guild. We are going to provide the service to my students. I only used that money to buy only drug boxes. Other things we ran, we had the reproductive health Uganda. We could bring a service on board at a free cost to my students and not incurring any cost. That's why services were many, but not encroaching on the guild money. Looking at, I'm a math student, a concerned one. That's why I ran, because there is a source of information for this. Because I also found it in their accountabilities that they bought all these things. We can go to Dean's office. We look for their accountabilities, and those things are readily available. That's the 23 million that was remaining on the guild account. We want to know how it was used. This is how it was used. They are saying they printed out all these things. Did you print them or not? Now it is a matter of you as executive. What did you use that money for? Is it still there or not there? This is what we are seeing. This is what we are finding in the offices on the handover. When you read there, you will find all these projectors were handed over. Where are they?
Yes, I'll start by reminding each and every one of us here that as the Minister of Justice and Social Affairs, Mr. Edgar was a member of the Guild Disciplinary Committee. And this committee, you should deal with issues of mismanagement of funds, which they did not do. Equally, for all the different GRCs in this table, they had the mandate to file a vote of no confidence on any GRC in the House, in case there are reasons as to why they should, which they all did not do. So believe me, you have tested their leadership. All these files being presented are for these gentlemen here. I would wonder why a math student would even risk to attempt to vote for people who have all these cases to present. So we need to look through all these things and see that these are leaders who have been in office. And this is exactly what they have been doing. They know themselves very well, which is why they have all these different receipts coming out. So it's really good for us to know where our roles lie and how these different leaders have failed us. So believe me, you as math students, do not test the same waters twice. You have a chance to have leaders who you can actually depend on, who are here to serve you, and who care, who have shown care even without you viewing them or them being given the mandate. So I urge you all in this room and to equally look at the previous debates and see how best we can move forward. Also, my friend here talked about how we are only focusing on the ambulance. In my action plan, there is a 5-step in health, which is 1, healthcare providers, 2, stock of medical supplies, 3, a clear student referral pathway, then 4, the emergency healthcare package, 5th, mental health support and support for people living with disabilities. He basically puts all his energy on trying to discredit me on particular points without, as a man who's intelligent, going through all the different action points.
Thank you, Ms.
We
Arikosi.
as leaders are going to fight the lecturers striking in a way that we have lost time, right?
We have lost, we're going on the second week. So ideally, we are going to be compensated for the time that we have lost. Our biggest challenge is that we as students are not being in the know of things that directly affect us. Mind you, before the lecturers were to strike, they should have probably come to us and asked for permission to strike, because we are the ones who are actually suffering. We are the ones who they are meant to be teaching. So before they go on with this strike, they should have come to us. But now that has been done, right? But we're going to find a way of ensuring that we are compensated for the time lost. We have lost coming on 2 weeks, and this has to change. Then a friend asked about the Wi-Fi. We are going to ensure that there are different hotspots within the university. As we speak
Time
now,
up, Ms.
there are
Arikosi.
only a couple of hotspots that serve the entire mass populace. When we diversify these different hotspots in PLT, university in halls of residence, then we would all have a scenario where we can access Wi-Fi in different areas. And then, surely, we can even go on with our virtual presence as students. So
Time
we
up.
will fight for compensation with the
Thank
time
you.
lost
So we
from
shall
the
have
lecturers striking.
Mr. Tumsime Wilson, right? Yeah. The question still is, how do the guild aspirants plan to deal with the issue of lecturers striking? So this time you're going to have 3 minutes to give your closing remarks within that very.
Well, to answer the question, ladies and gentlemen, the number one issue that I've been talking about with my fellow students, those that I have met, is communication, ladies and gentlemen. Communication is key when it comes to these issues. That some of our fellow students are at home preparing to come back, and they do not even know that the lecturers are striking. Gentlemen are here planning and preparing for a lecture tomorrow, and they know that lecturers are striking, but from their leaders now, it is us who are going to be their leaders come after 26th. We are telling you that our number one issue is communication. That beforehand, these leaders have this information about the lecturers' situations, because the guild president who sits on the university council has this information that these lecturers are going to strike. Now, once we communicate with our fellow students that there is a plan for this and this by the lecturers, I believe we can easily find means or find ways of maneuvering and going around this to make sure that even as much as our lecturers also demand or are protesting because of what they have not been given, we shall still be catered for. How? Let them, before they do this, have these lectures that we are supposed to receive recorded and given out to us. In this situation where it has already happened, then she's correct to say we must be compensated. Yes, we must be compensated for all this time. And that now falls when we come back now to the retake policy at the end, where I get a retake and I can justify I did not attend or I did not get these lectures because you were striking as a lecturer. So for my concluding remarks, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to stand up for matters of due respect. A lot has been talked about today. I thank you for all showing up and being here with us today. It has been so lively. But as someone that is not rerunning for any office in this university, only running for the first time, we need to look at our leaders, at our candidates, and sieve through who the best candidate is. Ladies and gentlemen, I present you myself as the best candidate for a number of reasons. Ladies and gentlemen, issues with the GRC house and all the documents that we are receiving here, maybe we have an error somewhere. If you have visited the Parliament of Uganda, they tell you about the Hansard. We should have at least recorded statements of whatever is discussed in this place, in the GRC house. That maybe if someone tries to deny at a future time like this, there will be that recorded evidence piece that will bring us all this evidence, and we shall bring you to book. Maybe I am adding this to my manifesto. I am adding this to what I intend to bring, that we should record what you're talking about in the GRC house. Come in future,
We do not have such cases, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank
you
you,
very
Mr.
much.
Wilson. So this time I'm going to invite Mr. Mtunjisa Edgar to give his closing remarks and answer the question, how do the guild aspirants plan to deal with the issue of lecturers striking? 3 minutes strictly.
Does that include a time for closing remarks?
Everything.
Okay, thank you so much. This debate has been an interesting one. But then to me, it's a concern and personal. And I feel bad that every time when there's an issue between the government and the lecturers, they always use the students as a scapegoat. Everything they think is just those students there, and that's it. I think that culture should change, and definitely we have to communicate and compensate as the fellow people here have said. But now, so that will be the future recommendations that I will have on such. But then to respond to a few questions, really, people. When you become a member of the disciplinary committee and you ask what did I do about it, it's like asking a judge who has not received any case, and asking them, but hey, we had someone stole someone here in the village. How come you've never done anything? A disciplinary committee is a committee, and I don't have powers to just assume the all powers of an entire committee. It has members. And I explained to her, my friend here, that there's procedure in the house, by the way. You don't just put up things. There is a committee called the ad hoc committee that works on accountability. So when they find any issue missing or some cases of such, they forward those cases to the disciplinary committee. And that's where that's when I act on them. Not just, I don't just act on them just out of the blue. That's something, there's procedure. Then asking about the vote of no confidence. You should follow history. That historically we've had this idea of vote of no confidence. My brother here can tell. There is the ideal and the reality. People can assure you it's very hard to move a vote of no confidence until it passes. You can just pick it here for reality. So it's asking me whether I tried. It's asking me whether I should have tried something which I was sure was going to fail. That's why we're talking about empowering GRCs so that the ideal really matches with the reality. That's why I have the entire point as my first point in my manifesto. Restoring sanity in this house. That's why. That's why we're running ECLET. That's why you should support us. We care about systems so much. So it's asking also that why do we vote for people who have all these cases? ECLET, you don't have these cases because you're a saint. You just don't have these cases because you've not served them well, like really here. Because the ideas talking out of sexual, of this sexual are all related to a course of gender. If I was to go to search, also I would tell you how many students you've lobbied to go to South Korea for debate, because I love debate, how many students have gone to a fight, this, all that. Or you're talking about the petroleum dinners and all those things, or petroleum, tours. So it's similar to what you're saying. That is not real leadership. Now ask these guys who have been in those offices. There's accountability, and that's why we have cases present, because we have things that we've worked upon. Because you don't have any in such regard, doesn't make you a saint. So these issues really need you to look at them holistically. Otherwise, guys, it's been a very nice debate, and my last remarks are that you guys want to restore systems, want to restore sanity, and want to give you a good guild president. Leave alone these people who have been like head boys, who just to go and come to inform you. You're going to see real representation, and you're going to feel the impact. Vote Edgar on Friday, and you're going to change this must. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mtunjisa. We are going to have Mr. Isiko Mande give his closing remarks and answer the question on the table. 3 minutes.
Before you once again is Isiko Mande, your presidential aspirant. Now, members, today, there are many questions which have been asked. And all these questions would have been addressed by the guild president. If at all he was there right now, even if he would have been a former guild president, or even if his term in office would have expired, we would have had an explanation as to why there is a signature and a name Muhumu there. But because the students made a choice and voted someone who would later on be out of the institution as soon as possible, and this person would not be accountable, I think this is why we're having such a lot of discrepancies. One of the candidates using him because he's sure that he's not around. Now, one person has talked about compensating us the time. That is in regards to the question. When is this strike going to end? What if it continues? The first thing is, one, because we have contacted these administrators. Well, much as they are striking, Fresh has reported last week, these students were requested to pay functional fees, fully paid functional fees. And they are already using it when they are not even actually using it. So one of the things we should advocate for, we as students, much as the lecturers are striking, we also need our services. One, we have peaceful means because there is a meeting that shall be held very soon. We very well know that the VC has contradicted with the currents, with what we know, because of the one of the reports he made on one of the media televisions. We are waiting for the outcomes of the next meeting, and trust me, ISICO has a plan. Well, in my closing remarks, members, you know, today is a Sunday. and today we are all emphasizing the issue of honesty. One of the members comes out here to say that he bought I don't know, a certain number of emergency boxes. Members, 200,000. How many emergency boxes with the equipment there can you procure from 200,000? I want to encourage Honorable Bonje Johnny Jones to continue reading the Bible because the truth shall set us free. To the rest of the mass students out there, we are so glad and we are so honored to be before you. We thank you for your time that you've sacrificed to give us your time here, listen to our views, and make your judgment later. I have had a lot of questions here and there because I have been tried, I have served, and I have proved competent. Mass students need to look no further. One who has been tried and found to be fit to run for this office. Members, I present to you ISICO Mande as your next guild president. All the members who have been here have presented very brilliant ideas. They are welcome on the team. It is not yet too late. They can join us in my camp on our way to victory. Their efforts will be appreciated.
Thank you, Mr.
I would love to serve with them. Thank you so much. I want to remind you that we are the change we seek.
Thank you, Mr. ISICO Mande. Mr. John Jones, 3 minutes strictly to answer the question. Liza is behind you. 3 minutes to answer the question. 3 minutes also give your closing remarks. So you have only 3 minutes to say whatever it is the electorate needs to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To mass students over there, I like it, having this debate on a Sunday, clearing air for whatever our leaders do behind the curtains. Because the guild constitution is very clear under Article 12, the management of the guild monies, and even at the end of the government, we are supposed to have accountabilities pinned on the notice boards. These people kept these accountabilities. But for me as a concerned student, because I was in the house before, I know where we find information. I had to go there and dig. Because I was sure when we are going to the holiday, we had a balance of 23 million. That's why these things are coming out. That's why people are just not, they are not informed. What were you doing in the house? We are much aware about that this Mustasa strike, that is about our lecturers, they are in strike. This has not started today. This is something that started back then in 2015. We had this strike. They were postponed to these days. We had even a strike last year when we were against the VC. But for us, we wanted to do exams. As a guild presidential aspirant, I'm concerned about my students. We are here. The semester has been reduced from 17 weeks, 17, 18 weeks, 15. We have already lost 1. Now we have 14. We are not certain whether they are going to be in a strike for about more 5 weeks. Now this is a plan for students. We are voting on Friday. Let's choose a leader who will demand for our rights, not this leader who will just go and enjoy whatever things that you go and enjoy. That's why John Jones Bwenya said, it is very clear. I had even some drug boxes yesterday, but I received 2 drug boxes from one of the concerned mass student who was a finalist then, was keeping the drug boxes. I introduced that idea, having drug boxes, they are simple. Don't think they are just like angels. Don't think this is an expensive thing. Keeping drugs, you don't need an expensive things like procuring projectors of 2.7. We looked at having something that is cheaper. Actually, for me, I procured 5 of them. I thought there were 6. I thought the subsequent guild government, that was back then in 2017. If I procured about 5 drug boxes, the new government would have procured, let's say 10, by now would be having 30. Each and every hostel would be having drug box. But the government that followed decided these things are not necessary. They went club dome and bought tickets for sale. As John Jones Bwenje is promising the government that will work for students, the government that will advocate for students. If there is no need for a fight, the government that will fight for students. We are here to leave a legacy. We are not passing through. We are going to be leaders later. We had a guild president who was here, Katongole Mike. He did whatever he did, but things followed him. He was contesting for Western Youth MP. I mean Central Youth MP. Things for this is demon. Don't enjoy our things and you think you'll succeed. Thank you so much.
Mr. Bwenje. So we're going to have Ms. Arikosi in a minute to give her closing remarks. She did not get the time to do that.
Thank you so much once again. I would just like us to analyze all the different people here, especially my colleague on my right. For someone who was speaking of gender equality, gender empowerment, and being inclusive of everyone, this is the same person who is assuming that it's only in our beautiful university, that it's only guild leaders who are depicting signs of leadership. No, my friend. There are different associations in the university who actually the guild should work with to ensure that we have massed better. But here he is sitting here assuming that in my previous leadership, I wasn't doing anything just because I wasn't in the guild. This is the leader who is basically discrediting every other leader in this room, wherever you are, in your faculty, in your culture organization, in your church. He is assuming that it's only the guild body that has leadership in the university. That's a lie. We need an inclusive guild president who is going to unite the entire mass fraternity from all areas, all associations, all bodies, all leaders. We can work together and have a mass where we have what we deserve. But a leader sits right here and says that because I wasn't in the guild, I wasn't a leader. That's a lie. And pretty much he was asked a question about gender empowerment. Basically, discrediting me and other people to lift himself up. As a leader, we must take note of such people. And I look at you right now asking you to choose leaders who are inclusive of every student in every faculty, every program, every year, every background.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Because as must, we are one.
Thank you so much, the audience and whoever has been watching. My name is Ricky Mugume Kashija, Physiotherapy Year 2 and a member of the Mass Debate Society. It's been my pleasure to host all of you and modulate this debate. You've all presented beautiful ideas. And come Friday is going to be incumbent on us as students, as the electorate, to pick who has represented you best in this debate and the previous two debates. At this juncture, I'd like to invite the chairperson of the electorate, of the electoral committee, to give the closing remarks and we depart. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, the moderator. I'm really glad and I have been amused by the debate. Very brilliant ideas, things that are interesting, things that are evident and non-evident, stuff like that. I'm really happy. My communication right now is to say that please continue watching your guild aspirants. We also have a talk show tomorrow at 7 p.m. on 91.2 Cruise FM. Tune in and listen to their idea. Someone might come with another evidence on AI. I don't know how you will say the signatures now. I'm not very sure, but please tune in and listen to what they are going to say. Maybe it could be contradicting with what we have heard right now. Please tune in, right? Then another issue is that on Tuesday at 2 p.m. we shall be in PLT. The same candidates, please come and see them, come and hear what they will say. We shall be glad. Then lastly, there is a hand. I don't know. Is it okay? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that concern. During orientation, the electoral commissioners were addressing the same issue, talking to the first years, the freshers, that we have the electoral process running So voting days is 24th for GRCs and GRC secretaries, and then 26th for guild presidents. The same guild aspirants that are talking to you, they still convey the same message. 26th we are not changing, and that's the date. 26th for guild presidents, GRCs, GRC secretaries, 24th. For those who want to vote for their GRC, Gents Flat, I think that's where we have a competition. You will have a polling station here. Chuhumuro people don't need to travel to main campus to do voting. All engineering courses will vote from this side, right? Yeah. So that's the fact. Also on for all polling days, let it be GRCs, let it be guild presidents, even chief fresher. We are informing that for chief fresher and lady fresher, we shall do by ballot. The reason is the Ministry of Health does not allow us to make a congregation, to make an audience of people that are going to vote. Freshers literally, there are more than 200 persons. You understand? And in that regard, we cannot risk to put you in the same room for us to start counting. And that means that you will be called upon to your polling stations at your areas where you will be. For example, first, freshers, you will vote from this side. We shall avail with the date, and it will be massively communicated. But right now we are having expression of interest. You come, pick a free form, you read it, analyze it, understand it, then make a decision. Can I stand for chief fresher or lady fresher, or I should not? You understand? The nomination is first March. That's it. Then I was also communicating that on Tuesday, for those who have some transport, the new members, all those who are dons, come to PLT at 2 p.m. Pharmacology Lecture Theatre, that nice building next to the pitch or to the playground, that nice block. Come at 2 p.m., listen in. If something changes, but man, you told us last time that this was your signature. You're presenting an A. Sorry, mind. I'm not saying that you will present a different signature. Okay, so thank you very much. I can call AETV to conclude the debate. But for that matter, please, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for listening in to these candidates. Still tune in on 91.2 Cruise FM tomorrow at 7 p.m. It will be hosted by Wesige Wanyaji. And it will be in English, so don't get scared that because it is written on Ihangaria way, it will be in Runyankore. No. The candidates, most of them actually don't know Runyankore. Don't know, or they know, actually. Somehow, somewhere, I have no evidence. Thank you, guys. Thank you. ATV, you can come and take in your say as we close.
Yes, thank you very much, you who has been viewing, I think, for the last 3 hours. And we are very much glad that you used your own internet to follow the beat of, the candidates here. We at one point used to call these ones hot seats, because whenever you're seated in there, you never know what you're going to say and what it is going to, change within your trail. But it's been a day of honesty, like someone branded it.
The day of Jesus, actually.
Well, the moment of truth,
yes.
You had to say the truth or you don't say anything.
Okay.
How was it?
Yes, today it was actually one of the best debates we have had, and according to even the according to people who followed online, they all appreciated the kind of debate, the mature debate, and the moment of questioning was really on point. So we thank you so much, candidates, for participating, and of course our viewers, both in-house and online. And what came out strongly was policy alternatives that were discussed by most of these candidates. We had issues to do with, actually someone talked about internship policy. Yes, we feel it is one of those policies that should be championed. Maybe we feel there is some bit of inequality when it comes to how internship is conducted. Maybe another policy alternative that came out strongly was the ODER policy. Being the era of e-learning, someone thinks there should be a policy in that line that can guide both students and staff members on the conduct of these e-learning lessons. Because someone talked about how lecturers are facilitated, but when it comes to students, there is no facilitation, and yet students are supposed to buy data, yet probably lecturers are given data. So someone feels there must be an order policy to guide the process of e-learning on the side of students.
And maybe most importantly also, you know, we have two candidates that have been incumbents in the previous government.
Yes.
And
2 or 3.
I think 2, the other one served in the other one.
Yes.
So, and then accountability issues coming on board again regarding the policy. Do you think the constitution this time, when we say that there is a query of around 15 million plus, a query of 2 million plus being either mishandled or having a question, and well, we have not seen that serious, you know, action being taken, do you think anyway the Students' Guild Constitution is at its play?
Oh yes, and I think we might not blame the Guild Constitution, but probably the GRCs themselves, because the Constitution guides on how ministers who are actually spenders of the Guild funds should account. So it's up to GRCs usually to demand accountability from the leaders guided by the Constitution, and I feel it probably a weakness of the regime, of the GRCs, not the Constitution itself.
Wow. Still sounding like dancing to the tunes of accountability and all that. When, for example, a guild official, Mr. Guild President or Madam Guild President, purchases product X on behalf of the guild president, or it's an event we are spending, I mean, you're spending students' money. Do you remember any bit in the Constitution, the nut on the guild, before they spend maybe another penny, at least make sure this money is accounted for? Or it is, yes, we have discovered that Mr. X misused this money and that's all, and life continues.
All right. Actually, our guild constitution is very clear. There is what you call ad hoc standing committees. So the GRCs can even stand and put in place the ad hoc standing committees, and one of it could actually, an ad hoc committee could be put in place to look at these accountabilities. And the ad hoc committee can have powers to actually stop releases from the university. If the release is not accounted for, they can actually stop the next release. So the ad hoc committee has such powers, and I personally served on ad hoc committee as a secretary, and there is one release that we stopped as the committee. So the accountability of the previous release were not clear, so we halted the release of other funds until we concluded the accountability. So the ad hoc committee, if put in place, has the powers to demand for accountability and put in place measures on how all guild funds can be released and utilized.
Well, it's a question of time and you know, the dedication that GRC meaning Guild Representative Councillor, just like the Parliament. But how often anyway?
Representative Council.
There's a question of how often anyway do they meet?
Do they meet? Yes.
Shall we wait for the ad hoc committee, for example, to enact all this? But all that.
I think that issue is silent in the Constitution.
Yes.
Probably because calling a meeting is in the hands of a speaker, but the speaker has to be on the mercy of the Prime Minister to get funds for the GRC.
Oh.
So at some point, if the funds are not released, the speaker might not call for meetings. And I think probably the Constitution should at one point dictate the number of mandatory GRC meetings that should take place, so that the Guild President and the Cabinet are all pushed to make sure these meetings are happening.
Well. This is a breed of new leaders, and why are we paying attention to such debates and such kind of, you know, political interests? Is because these people that you just watched are the next leaders of Uganda, and whatever happens at this level perhaps will be carried on at the national level. That's why we need to pay attention to this. Do you have a last promise?
Yes, talking about debates, this being an online kind of debate, we had people who followed on YouTube, and I just want to pick out a few of them. We have Joan at Natkunda. Actually, was part of AYLF, if you remember AYLF, and AYLF is credited to be the champion of these debates. And
That is Africa.
Youth Leadership Forum, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, she followed and she's thanking us for organizing this debate, and she's saying it was a wonderful debate.
Well, talking about it, AYLF, I think we are having a
We
session.
have a debate with them, yes. We have a debate organized by AYLF on Tuesday, yes, live on a TV as well. Yeah, and I think people like Joan and Shuare should be recognized for this initiative.
Well, we can make
we also
another
have,
promise.
we
Yes.
have another one called Mareka Emmanuel. He followed the last debate and today was live as well, and is saying this one was better than the last one.
Oh.
Yes, thank you so much, Mareka Emmanuel, for watching. Then Mubiru Bernard, yes, he said it was so good. Yes, Ambrose AY, thanks for your services. Thanking AETV for bringing this debate live
That's
to
good.
you. There's one Charles, he said he enjoyed the questioning between candidates. Thank you so much, Charles, for watching this debate live on AETV.
Well, we can make a few promises. One of them is that we are running a repeat of this debate tomorrow, Monday, from 11 a.m.
For those who missed,
Yes.
where can they find it?
Well, this will run on Facebook this time. You will run to our Facebook page, AYIT TV, tomorrow at 11 a.m. This repeat, the repeat of today's debate will be running, and like the Electoral Commission guided later in the evening, they will have a session at Cruise FM, and then Tuesday we return with AYIT TV and these candidates, and be sure that on Wednesday we will run a repeat of that session too. We are only counting 4 days.
And
to
talking
voting.
about 4 days,
Yes.
this week we are giving a chance to all these candidates to come back to you live on AETV. We're going to run interviews of all these candidates.
One by one.
One by one. Monday up to Thursday, all these candidates just watch AETV, and all these candidates will be given space, probably 30 minutes, explaining their manifestos, and
Yes.
again, talking to you why you should vote them and what you should expect from them. Monday up to Thursday.
Trust me, we came for you, and like we told you, we believe in age the 20s at least, because we know that at their 35 plus, there will be important people. Someone talked about their council meetings being on record. I think AETV needs to plan, just like Parliament, has those live
Bring
sessions.
live these GRC sessions.
Yes.
Yes.
We've already
something
anyway
good.
created a good rapport with
Yes,
at least
that's
all these
very good,
candidates. The next guild president, at least we are sure that we will partner with them at least to make sure that some GRC council, sittings come live.
And we-
Some last remarks?
Yes, yes. Talking about these debates as well, as Empower Youth in Technology, we are available for any debate for as long as we are reaching out to young people. So trust us, trust the process. We are going to bring to you all this. AYIT TV, just for our YouTube, subscribe on our YouTube channel. Yes, like our Facebook page, it's AYIT TV. We have Twitter as well, AYIT TV. Just follow, like, and you will not miss out any of this.
Very well. We call this a day and a debate.
We cannot conclude minus, of course, recognizing the people we have worked with today.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Isofer Yuzuka behind the camera, behind the scenes.
Yes.
Yes, we have Patience Poppy Tsime, of
Mm.
course, as well. Behind the camera, these are the people we have worked with. And of course, the usual suspects, to Shabe Ronald alongside.
Well, I am Sankara Verhanga, and we'll be returning tomorrow with a repeat of this debate. Please don't miss. And, Tuesday, we will be also coming live to your phone with these candidates. But like Ronnie promised, we will be coming with each individual getting on a set in a one-on-one session for you to gauge well your candidate before you vote on 26th of February. We call it a day?
We call it a day. Thank you so much for watching.
No,
See
I
you
want
next
you
time.
to know that the cool way of ending this is when you say Chawalios.
I don't know it. See you next time.